Republic 7th Fleet, Centaurus Sector, 407 light-years from Earth. RSS Vercingetorix, Independence-class carrier 2174 AD. Vice-Admiral Mei Zhou had just finished making the final changes to the fleet's reconnaissance patrol routes with her senior staff when the comm panel on her desk chirped, displaying an incoming comm request from Admiral Thompson. She quickly thumbed the pad being offered by her aide so he could issue the orders they were just working on and turned to the rest of her staff. "Nice job, people. Let's get to work. Dismissed." As the staff filed out the door, she started entering the codes needed to decrypt the incoming comm channel and looked up to make sure the room was empty. She pressed the open channel icon, and Admiral Thompson's holo image appeared in front of her desk, ending just below his waist and making it seem as if he was actually there, sitting. "May, how's your new ship treating you?" he asked, smiling. "She is an absolute beauty, Carl. I still can't believe that she is mine," she responded, returning his smile. "What can I do for you, Carl?" Thompson chuckled, and his holo image leaned back as he reclined in his chair. "Straight to business. I always liked that about you, May. All right, here we go. We have received intelligence reports that the Commonwealth has begun evacuating one of their last remaining coreward periphery worlds that is now dangerously close to the expanded insectoid border. We have also received an update from our spy drones in that same region that 6 hive ships and almost 400 cruisers that were patrolling their side of that border area have disappeared. This is too much of a coincidence, and I want you to detach a combat patrol and send them there." Thompson finished speaking, and a flashing icon popped up on her comm panel, indicating that she had just received new orders. She tapped it and quickly scanned the new orders as the Admiral waited. She looked up at his holo image. "Carl, I acknowledge receipt of the new orders and will implement them. Between me and you, why are we getting involved with this? The Commonwealth has a navy, and they should be fighting to protect their space. We can't keep coming to the rescue and defending their members. We are already spread too thin as it is." Thompson nodded his head in agreement. "May, I agree with you in principle, but there are social and political considerations involved here. The near extinction of the Verni has caused considerable turmoil among the citizens of the Republic. They know logically that we could not have stopped such an attack like that one, but the perceived failure to protect them or prevent the attack still weighs heavily on their souls. The Commonwealth is currently attempting to evacuate the Jeline system, and they are one of the last surviving members that voted yes before our petition to join the Commonwealth was denied. It also doesn't help that the Jelini are avowed pacifists and look like bipedal Newfoundland dogs. They are technically a bear-like species, but to humans, they look like humanoid dogs, and the government is unwilling to lose the popular support it currently enjoys by allowing the Jelini to be exterminated. I mean, look at these guys. Another flashing icon popped up on her screen a moment later, and she pressed it. It turned into a hologram depicting a typical Jelini family of a mother and father with a litter of 6 pups, and she couldn't help but smile as she looked at the photo. They were wearing their traditional rough-spun linen clothes that made them look like dogs cosplaying as monks. They looked adorable, and she felt her heart melt while staring into their deep brown eyes, which looked sad. She understood the reasoning behind it, especially after the mass extinctions that occurred in Earth's biosphere because of World War III. After the war, humanity had an awakening when they surveyed their destroyed world and came to terms with the disappearance of thousands of species and the near extinction of thousands of others. What followed were 3 generations of desperate measures to salvage what remained and a worldwide effort at habitat restoration and de-extinction efforts, utilizing a wide array of methods such as backbreeding, cloning, and genome editing. Dogs were almost driven to extinction by the war as they were uniquely susceptible to the biochem weapons that were developed and refined by the Eastern Coalition, animal testing on poor innocent canine subjects. Between the biochem weapons, owner deaths, abandonment, and starvation, almost 90% of the domesticated canine population and entire breeds were lost by the war's end. Cats fared much better, but they still suffered a loss of almost half of their pre-war population, and a large percentage of the survivors reverted to a feral state. The result of all of this was an almost religious reverence for the preservation of sentient animal life on human worlds and a somewhat fanatical tendency of humans to take on the mantle of guardians for sapient alien species that resembled animals to them. Carl, I understand, I do. I just don't like the fact that we are operating on so many fronts. Some of our fleets and task forces are patrolling areas far enough away that I worry about them getting reinforcements on time if they are attacked. And now my fleet is being partitioned to send a combat patrol almost 300 light-years away from our current position. After the assault on the Vern system, half of our combat power was recalled to Republic space to prevent the same thing from happening to us. And yet we are still being tasked with properly defending Eliani and Zenshin territory with half the ships we had before. Have they lost their damn minds at HQ? She realized she was almost yelling at the Admiral, and Mei took a deep breath, recognizing that her outburst was unbecoming of a Republic naval officer. She attempted to quickly apologize to Admiral Thompson. "Carl, I'm sorry that was uncalled for." The Admiral raised a hand to stop her, an amused expression in his eyes. "Mei, I said the exact same thing to my boss as you did, almost verbatim, and not as diplomatically as you, I might add. My concerns were addressed to my satisfaction, and I think yours will be when you get to your destination. There will be a task force joining you there, and I think you will be pleased. That is all I can say for now over the comms. You will lead the combat patrol to the coordinates listed in the orders you received, and the task force joining you there will fall under your command. I have a personal favor to ask of you. Please keep an open mind when you link up with the task force. You will rendezvous with Commodore Therax, and he is instrumental in our efforts to undermine the increasingly despotic Commonwealth government. More information about him and the Nikuli were added to your orders. Make sure you review it. I took a big gamble on this, and I would be grateful if you did your best to make this collaboration work. That is all for now, and I wish you and your crews good fortune and Godspeed, Mei. Take care of yourself." The Admiral finished speaking, and Mei noted the personal nature of his last few words, nodding an affirmative to his request. "Admiral, I thank you for your words, and we won't let you down. I need to issue the orders now to get there and link up with the task force on time. I'll send a null space comm drone to the nearest relay to confirm our arrival and integration. Vice-Admiral Zhou out." As she leaned towards the comm panel to close the channel, she saw Admiral Thompson doing the same, and he gave her a wink and a mischievous smile before she pressed the icon, terminating the connection. She leaned back in her chair and blew out a deep breath. "Now what the hell was that all about?" she asked out loud to herself, as the confusing and secretive nature of her orders and the personal request of the Admiral added to the uncertainty of what she was expected to do. She keyed her wrist pad and texted her aide to come back to her office for new orders. He was going to be livid that they just wasted half a day revising the patrol routes to maximize efficiency and increase their patrol range. A small smile crossed her lips as she waited. He had an obvious tell of his lower left eyelid spasming when he was mad, despite displaying no emotions on his face, and she knew it drove him nuts that he couldn't control it. Witnessing it was one of the small joys she had in her difficult job as Vice-Admiral, and she was looking forward to it. 56 hours later, her task force flashed out of null space at the designated coordinates and right on time. She felt a measure of pride as she watched her bridge crew go about confirming their location and verifying it with the navigational array and astrometric sensors. Once the navigator gave her confirmation that he verified their position, she turned towards the comms officer and ordered her to send a burst transmission with the prearranged code and waited for the response. A few seconds later, the comms officer raised her left hand and signaled receipt and confirmation of the code by the task force waiting in null space. An agonizingly long minute crawled along as she anxiously waited for her navigator to confirm the telemetry from his counterpart in the other task force as they verified their positions. The navigator activated the main view screen on the forward bulkhead as they waited. Suddenly, there were a multitude of exit flashes 200,000 kilometers from the bow of her carrier, and hundreds of warships appeared at a dead stop relative to her position. Her jaw dropped as she took in the unexpected fleet in front of her. There were dozens of Commonwealth dreadnoughts, battleships, and heavy cruisers arrayed before her, as well as an additional 120 light cruisers, destroyers, and missile frigates. On the flanks of the main formation, there were more exit flashes, and the bridge AI started categorizing them on the screen. and she saw that they were the new Eleani and Zengtian warships that she had been hearing about. They shared a common design lineage with the Commonwealth ships, but there were definite differences that became obvious as they assumed their positions next to the Commonwealth Navy ships. She was particularly intrigued by the Zengtian ships, as they seemed to be bristling with weapons, almost excessively so relative to their ship sizes. The Eleani ships seemed to have taken a different design philosophy, and they gave the impression of deadly speed and grace, and she was hard-pressed to spot any obvious weapons on their hulls despite the AI confirming that the ships were indeed well-armed. There was another coded signal from null space that appeared on the comm station panel, and her comm officer turned to her. "Vice-Admiral, we have received a coded message on the Sigma frequency for your eyes only that requires biometric and voice verification to decrypt." Zhou nodded and pressed a button on her arm panel, activating the privacy screen around her chair and feeling the air pressure change as the bridge around her became opaque and silent. She pressed the biometric toggle on the panel, and a retinal scanner popped out of its alcove on the side. She leaned in and scanned her right eye first, then her left. An icon appeared on the screen and she thumbed it as it flashed and confirmed the print. Finally, she spoke and addressed the bridge AI. "Susie, please confirm the voice command for verification." The AI answered immediately. "Of course, Vice-Admiral Zhou, please proceed." "Zhou, 1 Red 7 Green 4 Tango Alpha 0, execute. Voice command verified. Thank you, Vice-Admiral Zhou." A small holographic display popped up in front of her. The Admiral appeared on the screen and his pre-recorded message started playing. "May, I know all this cloak and dagger stuff seems excessive, but we couldn't take any chances. The receipt of this message will activate a program in your bridge AI and allow it to take control of the new drone ships waiting for you in null space. They are a new class of upgraded null ships and are top secret. Your AI will anchor them to your task force and they will follow you, remaining hidden in null space unless you absolutely need them. There are also 2 troop ships with them that are carrying a complement of 2,000 Mark 12 ATS biosynths and an expeditionary brigade each of rangers and pathfinders in stasis. They are also to remain in null space unless circumstances require that you need them. They are an insurance policy for an ongoing mission in insectoid space. The details of that are top secret as well and can be accessed with your AI. If the troop ships are required for that mission, they are to be escorted by a detachment of null ships and sent there immediately. After you have met your task force counterpart, there are orders in this packet that are to be accessed by you both and executed. I have the utmost faith in you, May, and I can't wait to take you out to dinner again, when we can both coordinate our next leave together. Thompson out. The hologram message disappeared, and she waited a little longer to allow the blush from his last sentence to fade from her cheeks and suppress the smile that was trying to form on her face before she put on her command mask and lowered the privacy screen. The bridge crew was going about their usual tasks, trying hard not to seem interested in her top-secret message. "Comms, open a channel to the task force flagship, please." The comm officer acknowledged the order, and a few seconds later the bridge of the Commonwealth flagship appeared on the view screen. A Nikuli male was sitting in the command chair, resplendent in the uniform favored by Nikuli officers. He took a moment to look around her bridge before settling his eyes on her. He bowed his head slowly in a gesture of respect, which she returned in proper fashion. The proper courtesies having been observed, he raised his eyes to meet with hers and started speaking. "Vice-Admiral Zhou, may the ancestors grant you and your clan honor and good fortune. I am deeply honored to meet you, and I hope our integration is a successful endeavor. I now entrust the honor of myself and my crew to your safekeeping." He remained stone still as he awaited her reply, and she tried to remember the proper return greeting that she had been studying during their trip here. "Commodore Therax, the honor is mine, and I promise you that I shall never ask you or your crew to undertake any action that will bring dishonor to your clans and your ancestors. We are now joined as one. May our cause be just and pure." She finished the response, and the gravity of what she just promised to someone she had never met before hit her hard. It felt almost sacred to her. Commodore Therax heard her proper reply, and he stood up, followed by the rest of his bridge crew. He addressed her again. "Our honor has been given, and we have received a promise to safeguard it in return. Our joining is now consecrated in the eyes of the ancestors, and you are now our clan leader." What are your orders? She recovered from the ordeal of the emotionally charged exchange of vows and stood up to give her first order as clan leader to the Nekuli. I request the presence of you and your senior staff aboard my ship tonight. I will prepare a feast to honor our new friendship and alliance. I have studied your cuisine, and I have found a selection of Earth cuisine that should suit your taste. It is called tartare and sashimi. I think you will like it. Commodore Therax looked at her dubiously, and she had to stifle a laugh at his expression as she knew that he was imagining being forced to eat vegetables and overcooked meat out of politeness. She spoke quickly to assuage his fears. Commodore, tartare, and sashimi are raw red meat and fish. I would never inflict vegetables and burnt meat on you or your crew. Are we not friends? As his translator finished converting her words into his language, he smiled at her, baring all of his fangs in true happiness.